Hello, I'm John Frederick, and I'm delighted to be with you. I'm here today to talk about my book, Winding Roads, A Bicyclist Journey Through Life in America. Following college graduation from Penn State 40 years ago, I set off on a cross-country bicycle trip from Astoria, Oregon, back here to central Pennsylvania. I had often talked and written about the adventure in the ensuing years, and finally decided a decade ago that there were more than enough stories, reflections, funny experiences, and fascinating geography to fill a book. I thought the story of the transcontinental trip was an interesting tale all by itself, but when I began writing, I realized what led up to the trip was an equally captivating story. For the bicycle had been an important part of my life from an early age. Ironically, I was a most non-athletic child, and the last of the neighborhood kids my age to figure out how to ride a two-wheeler. Yet despite this propensity for athletic failure of all sorts, I loved being outside, hiking in the woods near our house at the edge of Altoona, and riding my bike whenever the opportunity presented itself. As we grew older and more adventurous, 3 cousins I grew up with and I ventured farther and further from home. Beyond the adventures, the bike rides proved to be the first successful athletic endeavors of my life. So when a bicycling physical education class was offered during my freshman year at Penn State, I jumped at the opportunity. That summer, I joined my second cousin Brian Weekland for the final 3 days of his cross-country ride and came to realize such a trip could be in my future. After a Greyhound bus ride from Pennsylvania to the West Coast, which was arduous in its own right, I met 4 friends near Astoria, Oregon a month after college graduation to begin the ride. We quickly came to learn that many difficulties were sprinkled among the marvels we'd experienced on the trip. In the first 3 days, incessant rains, equipment failures, a chance meeting with a motorcycle gang, and getting thrown off Interstate 84 provided a rude baptism to our cross-country trek. But the positives far outweighed the negatives, most days anyway, and there were more than a few times that the beauty of the countryside and the kindness of the people we met overwhelmed us. The scenic highway along the Columbia River was breathtaking, and the climb into the northern Rockies a few days later was incredible. The climb and descent of Galena's summit still sticks out in my memory all these years later. Here's how I describe it in the book. As the Sawtooth Basin yielded to the mountain, I began the climb of Galena's summit. I ascended it with ease, further pushed along by the truly breathtaking view at its peak as the sun faded lower into the evening sky. Somewhere between 7,000 and 8,000 feet, I found myself above the tree line as the road swept to the east. The incredible vistas were unobstructed. I climbed along the west flank of the mountainside, and to the east was the broad valley of the meandering Salmon River. The river snaked along in textbook fashion, one meander running into the next, forming small oxbow lakes and scarring the plain with abandoned riverbeds. After turning east and crossing the Salmon, the river faded toward the south and finally disappeared from view as I descended the other side of the mountain. The silence was broken only by the wind blowing by my ears and an occasional bird calling out as it rode to thermals along the mountainside. I had already been blessed to see some incredible things in my 21 years and would see many more later in life, but the ride climbing up to Galena's summit was perhaps the most overwhelming and moving scenes I had witnessed. The descent was one of the most incredible of my life, following a climb of epic proportions through some of the most awesome landscapes on the planet. I put my head down and pushed my biggest gear through the still warm and remarkably pristine early evening air. It was truly a sliver of heaven on earth. Too frequently, those special moments in life are not fully appreciated until they're over. This was one that was clearly majestic as I experienced it. Whatever your perception of God may be, it was clear that He was riding with me that evening, thoroughly enjoying His handiwork. Challenges continued to interrupt those joyous moments, and the 2 companions who had planned to make the entire trip abandoned the ride east of Yellowstone National Park. My riding partner and old friend Todd Baldwin put it best after snow showers and heavy tourist traffic had undermined our trip through the Grand Tetons. After laughing about our plight later that evening, he looked across the room at the rest of us. "Oh my," he gasped between snorts of laughter. "I can't tell you how much fun these crazy conversations are at the end of each day. It's just the other 23 hours of stuff in between that I can't take." This made us laugh all the harder. My Penn State classmate John Menke and I soldiered on, battling persistent rain, mosquitoes, headwinds, the traffic of Chicago and Gary, Indiana, and the coal trucks of western Pennsylvania. But the kindness of a good Samaritan in Walkerton, Indiana, a priest in Brunswick, Ohio, and my great aunt and uncle in Freeport, Pennsylvania took the edge off a few of the most trying days. Permit me a final note on the writing experience. I'm a reborn writer, returning to the art many years after changing my college major from journalism to geography. And writing a book that is part memoir, especially many years after the events transpired, can be an emotional experience. While researching and writing the book, I laughed out loud and cried more than a few times when a memory arose of a special event or person no longer with us. I hope you all enjoy the reading of Winding Roads as much as I enjoyed writing it. I invite you to visit my website, www.johnjfrederick.com, or author John Frederick on Facebook. You can order books on the website or check out some of my other writings.